Hey everyone, and welcome back to Dark Truth Files. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most chilling and unbelievable true crime stories you might ever hear. Imagine in the heart of Soviet Russia during those cold, silent 1980s, a monster walked among ordinary people, a man who twisted fear into his very shadow and made death his horrifying obsession. His name was Andrei Chikatilo, but history remembers him by a far more sinister title, the Butcher of Rostov. Get ready, because this is a story that will send shivers down your spine. Music fades slightly, becoming more somber and mysterious. Let's rewind the clock to October 16, 1936. Andrei Romanovich Chikatilo was born in a tiny Ukrainian village called Yabluchne, right in the middle of one of the harshest famines Soviet history had ever seen. Life back then, brutal doesn't even begin to cover it. Hunger, fear, and violence weren't just abstract concepts. They were the very air he breathed, shaping his entire childhood. There are stories, truly unsettling ones, that his mother once told him his older brother had been kidnapped and, horrifyingly, eaten by their starving neighbors. Can you imagine the trauma of a story like that haunting you forever? Growing up, Chikatilo was often bullied, weak, and constantly humiliated. He felt utterly powerless. As he stumbled through adolescence and into adulthood, he developed deep sexual insecurities that left him feeling ashamed and incredibly resentful. On the surface, he was quiet, seemed well-behaved, almost unremarkable. But underneath that calm exterior, a terrifying darkness was slowly, silently building. Music shifts to a slightly more suspenseful tone. Fast forward to the 1970s. Chikatilo had built a seemingly normal life. He was a married man, a father of two, and get this, a respected teacher. To the outside world, he looked like any other dutiful Soviet citizen, living his life, doing his job. But, and this is where it gets truly unsettling, behind that gentle face of a teacher, a predator was quietly, patiently, waiting to strike. He began showing genuinely disturbing behaviors, things that should have been red flags, inappropriate contact with students, strange, unpredictable outbursts, and a chilling fascination with control and domination. Eventually, he was fired from his teaching job, but here's the kicker. No one reported him to the police. No one took that crucial next step. His slow, terrifying descent into madness had already begun, completely unchecked. Then, in 1978, Chikatilo's darkest fantasies exploded into a horrifying reality. His first known victim was a 9-year-old girl named Yelena Zakotnova. He lured her to a small cabin near a river with the simple, innocent promise of candy. Once there, he brutally attacked and killed her. Her body was found days later, and in a tragic twist of fate, authorities arrested another man for the crime, an innocent person who was later, incredibly, executed. Andrei Chikatilo, the real killer, walked free. This was a fatal, catastrophic mistake, a mistake that paved the way for one of the worst killing sprees in modern history to truly begin. Intense, dramatic music begins. Between 1978 and 1990, Chikatilo committed unspeakable acts, murdering more than 50 people, men, women, and terrifyingly, children. He became a phantom, haunting train stations, bus stops, and busy marketplaces, always searching for victims who were vulnerable, alone, or just appeared easy targets. He often lured them with the simplest, most deceptive offers: food, a bit of money, a warm place to stay, or even just a friendly conversation. But once he had them isolated, his unimaginable cruelty would emerge. He mutilated his victims, leaving behind scenes so gruesome, so horrific, that even hardened, experienced detectives were left deeply shaken and disturbed. Each killing, each act of violence, gave him a perverted sense of power, a sick, twisted pleasure born from the control he felt he never had in his own life. As the bodies piled up, a creeping panic began to spread across Russia. Parents warned their children, desperately telling them not to talk to strangers. But the police, trapped within the rigid confines of Soviet secrecy and denial, were stubbornly unable to admit that a serial killer was even on the loose. They couldn't acknowledge such a thing existed in their perfect society. By the mid-1980s, despite the official stance, Soviet authorities reluctantly realized they were facing something truly unprecedented: a serial killer operating across multiple cities, leaving a trail of terror. But in a country where the state denied the very existence of such criminals, investigators faced immense resistance from their own system, from their superiors. Detective Viktor Burakov was assigned to lead this impossible hunt. He worked tirelessly, almost obsessively, traveling from city to city, meticulously studying crime scenes, trying to build a profile of this elusive monster. But the killer always seemed one step ahead. Chikatilo's job as a factory worker required frequent travel, which, chillingly, gave him the perfect cover. He murdered across vast regions, deliberately confusing the investigation, and, tragically, evading capture for years. Tense, building music. Then, in 1984, there was a glimmer of hope. Police finally caught Chikatilo near a murder scene. He was behaving suspiciously, and his description matched reports from witnesses. During interrogation, he seemed nervous but unsettlingly calm. Despite the mounting evidence, authorities, still hampered by outdated methods and internal politics, couldn't definitively tie him to the crimes. Incredibly, tragically, he was released, free to kill again. That mistake, that colossal error, would cost many, many more innocent lives. Music becomes more urgent. It wasn't until 1990 that Andrei Chikatilo's horrifying reign of terror finally came to an end. Police, now under immense public and political pressure, had set up surveillance at train stations, locations where many of the victims had last been seen alive. An alert officer noticed Chikatilo talking to a young boy in a suspicious, unsettling way. The officer, sensing something was gravely wrong, followed him. When the boy disappeared, police moved in. Inside Chikatilo's belongings, they found disturbing items: ropes, knives, and chilling stains of blood. When he was brought in for questioning, he adamantly denied everything, maintained his innocence, until one incredibly astute investigator employed psychological tactics, breaking through his facade. After 2 grueling weeks of interrogation, Chikatilo finally confessed. What followed was a shocking and sickeningly detailed account of how he lured, killed, and mutilated his victims. He admitted to 53 murders in total, describing each one with chilling precision, and, perhaps most disturbing of all, absolutely no sign of remorse. It was a confession that stunned a nation. Music shifts to a more solemn, reflective tone. In 1992, Andrei Chikatilo's trial became one of the most infamous, most talked about events in Russian history. The courtroom was absolutely packed. Journalists from around the world, the heartbroken families of his victims, and countless curious onlookers all came to witness the man who had terrorized an entire nation. When guards brought him in, he was caged inside a metal enclosure, a necessary precaution to protect him from the understandably furious crowd. During the proceedings, he shouted, he laughed, he even sang, a truly disturbing display, leaving many to wonder if it was genuine insanity or sheer cold arrogance. Despite his bizarre behavior, psychiatric evaluations declared him sane and fully responsible for his horrific actions. He was found guilty of 52 murders and, without hesitation, sentenced to death by firing squad. On February 14, 1994, the Butcher of Rostov finally met his end. Chikatilo was taken to a small, stark execution chamber in Novocherkassk prison. Without ceremony, without fanfare, he was shot in the back of the head. There was no remorse from him, no apology for the pain he inflicted, only silence. For countless people, for the families of his victims, justice had finally, painstakingly been served. Somber, reflective music swells. Andrei Chikatilo remains one of the most infamous serial killers in history, a man who tragically turned the post-Soviet landscape into a field of nightmares. His unspeakable crimes revealed the horrifying weaknesses of a secretive system, a place where bureaucracy and outright denial allowed a monster to thrive unchecked for over a decade. To this very day, his name alone sends chills down the spine of those who remember. He wasn't some mythical creature or a ghost. He was an ordinary man, born from suffering, who tragically, horrifyingly, chose to become a monster. Andrei Chikatilo, the Butcher of Rostov, a man who showed the world that true evil can indeed hide behind the most ordinary of faces. May his victims never, ever be forgotten. If you found this deep dive into a dark corner of history compelling, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to Dark Truth Files for more real-life true crime stories and explorations into the mysteries of our world. Your support helps us bring these stories to light. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.